I debated Destiny, Stephen Bonnell, this video game playing guy, and he wanted like a blueprint. He wanted exactly exactly how much, French fries you get in the Socialist Society's restaurant when you order a hamburger, and I try not to do that, because the thing is that socialism will come about as a result of the American people in their millions coming into motion and fighting for it and building it. So, blueprints can only go so far. Right. And that the reason I'm talking about socialism with American characteristics is because we need to acknowledge that when socialism comes to the United States, it will be to address the contradictions of U.S. society. It will be because the people of this country decided that they wanted it and fought to bring it into being. So it's going to be unique. It's going to be specific to our conditions. Right. And, Mao very much changed socialism and Marxism for China. He didn't copy the Soviet Union. Right? Bolivarianism is very, very specific to Latin America. It's a new thing. Ba'athist Arab socialism in the Arab world, it acknowledges the role of Islam and Arabism and has a very important history. And that everywhere that we've seen socialism be victorious, it has adjusted for the place that it comes into existence, right? And we need to talk about doing that in the United States. We are never going to have a Kim Il-sungist government in America. Sorry to burst your bubble. I've read Kim Il-sung's writings. I think North Korea is a country that there's plenty we can learn from in terms of how it has existed and struggled. But they're never going to have a Kim Il-sungist government. We're never going to have a Maoist government in the United States. We're never going to have, we need to figure out what American socialism will be. And I don't really know at the end of the day, right? But that's something we're going to figure out. There's a couple things that come to mind. I think that we'll have a big market sector, right? I mean, Americans are a very entrepreneurial people, right? I mean, we have immigrants here from all over the world who come here because they want to start a business. And in Nicaragua, they have a micro entrepreneurs program where they enable people, low-income Nicaraguans, to start their own businesses. I can only imagine that a socialist government in the United States would be empowering Americans to start tech companies and start tech firms and all that, all to work in line with a state centrally planned economy. But I think there would be a big market sector in the United States. I think that resolving the issues of race and the tensions we've had around race, and I think that would be important. I think religious freedom of expression, freedom to assemble, the civil rights, these things are very important to Americans. And I can't imagine any government ever coming to power here that didn't recognize, civil liberties. But I've often raised 4 demands that would be a transition to socialism. The first being, a mobilization of the population to rebuild the country. New highways, new bridges, new railways, new universities, new schools, just a mass program of reconstruction of the United States. The second would be taking public control of our natural resources. America's oil, America's coal, America's timber, America's natural gas. The profits from it should go into the public budget, right? It should be operated in a way that is in the long-term interest of the people of this country. The third would be public control of banking, so that credit was assigned by the state in the interests of the overall, needs of the country, not just a private banker trying to make profits from interest, right? And that if the state had a monopoly on credit, we could use the assigning of credit to strategically plan out the economy. And the fourth thing would be an implementation of the economic Bill of Rights that Roosevelt talked about: the right to a job, the right to housing, the right to healthcare. Those 4 steps, if you implemented them, that would not in and of itself be socialism. We would still, conceivably one could be still a capitalist country. But in order to achieve those 4 things, so much popular power would have to be created, and so much capitalist power would have to be pushed back, that socialism would be just around the corner, right? That would be a point of transition. If you look at the Bolivarian countries, the way that Hugo Chavez and Evo Morales and others came to power was they had elections that were like a referendum on free market neoliberalism. Are you for it or are you against it, right? Well, the people voted against it. They elected the socialist candidate. The socialist candidate then proceeded, after the population rejected neoliberalism, to transition towards socialism. I can see an election like that happening in the United States, perhaps in the next 20, 30 years. We would get to the point that there'd be such a big class struggle and mobilization that we would have an election that was really a referendum on the insane system of capitalism and free markets, and we could elect some kind of popular front government or people's democratic government, an anti-monopoly state like William Z. Foster spoke about. And from there, in order for that government to stay in power, it would need to change the military. It would need to change the way the business communities operate, the intelligence agencies, and the police. In order for a government that represented popular will against the ruling class to stay in power, it would be forced to move towards socialism, or it would be overthrown.